Here now, Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy and co-host of The Five, Juan Williams. He is also a Fox News political analyst. Gentlemen, welcome. The president took a few steps forward in all of this the other day with the meeting that he had. Perhaps it would be wise to keep a camera in there all the time. Maybe that would keep the language sort of on track, but this is not helpful.
Listen, this is not helpful at all. It's a distraction, but I got to tell you what, it's not going to distract us from the mission that we actually want to get a solution for the DACA kids. We want to secure a border. We want to end chain migration, and we want to end the lottery system. And we do think there's a deal here. But you heard this conversation that's taking place with this self-appointed group of Republicans and Democrats. I would argue that the information I've heard from the deal, that's not going to get through a Republican Senate or a Republican House. This is a crappy deal that I don't think anyone will buy into. It doesn't accomplish the goals that the president ran on.
Let me ask you this. What do you think the president meant with that comment? And what do you think? How do you think he should have put it if he was trying to express that? I don't know.
Listen, I can't put myself in the president's head. It's an unfortunate comment. Listen, I can't defend it. I don't think anybody can. I don't know where you wanted to go with it. So I don't know, Martha. I don't have good insight. And it's a really hard spot to sit tonight to try to defend or analyze what he was trying to mean because it's offensive. I don't like it.
Why?
You know, I always try to understand what politicians are trying to do. So at best, you could say he was trying to talk about the diversity of the lottery, which is, you know, part of his objection right now is that we have a lottery that specifically targets people from countries that aren't equally represented in terms of the immigrant flow coming into the United States. And he's saying, we don't need that. But his language, as the congressman said, I think it's deeply offensive. Remember, Donald Trump's family came from a place that once would have been described in those terms by the elites of that time. So and then secondly, there's the racial angle, because then he says, maybe we need more people from Norway. I don't think there's any getting away from the color of people from Norway as opposed to people coming from Haiti, Africa, El Salvador.
You know, he has said, and I'm not making any excuses for him, but he has said in the past, you know, that we want to bring in people who have the skills for the jobs that we need here. We have a lot of low-skilled workers in this country. You know, having them getting the jobs for them is the priority. Many countries do, at times, restrict immigration from certain areas because they want to change the flow of where people are coming from, right? You know, that's what I was sort of asking you. I mean, you know, is there a legitimate argument to be made for saying we need to cut off immigration from certain countries and we need to encourage it from others? That is not a racial question, but that's a question of skills, skill set.
Then it's not by country. I think it's give us your best and your brightest, your hardest working people.
Well, that's
I don't care where you come from.
He said that in the past. He did not say that articulately tonight, that's for sure.
But that's exactly that. He didn't say that tonight, and I think it leaves a lot of room for speculation and claims of racism, and it doesn't advance the cause of our mission to secure the border. He didn't
talk about qualified people here. He said blank countries in a way that I think suggests that anybody coming from such a country is not. That's not. I mean, I don't think that's what he should be saying. Let me just say that. That's not what I expect from the American president. We're a country that takes people who've been oppressed, people who have suffered natural disasters, and we turn them into Americans who produce great things.
But that's what this argument's all about. But everyone agrees with that sentiment, but they have to come in legally. And you have to have rules
and
regulations
that's not what he said,
about how they come in. No, clearly it was not.
This is a unique conversation on the Five I was watching earlier, but Donald Trump speaks like he might be sitting in a Wisconsin bar. He doesn't use always the most refined language, and sometimes he's speaking freely and maybe off the cuff, and it's language that can be misinterpreted. And the problem is when that language gets leaked out, he looks horrible. And so you got to ask, who's sitting in the room with you?
What about one last thought on Nancy Pelosi's comment? Because I think that was an offensive comment as well, that these five white guys, why do we always have to make these kinds of judgments about the people who are included in conversations? What difference would it make?
Well, of course it makes a difference.
Don't you want the best people, whoever they are, regardless of color, to be talking about this issue?
Sure, but also I think you have to understand that there was nobody in there who was of any Hispanic origin tied in any way to people who are coming from that end.
So they can't have any sensitivity or understanding.
Of course they can. And I think that's why the four guys, then said, you know, we'd like Senator Menendez, Robert Menendez of New Jersey, to come into the group because they want some perspective that's not simply a group of white men. But remember, it was a joke about the Five Guys hamburger.
I get it. I just think it's...
But this isn't getting broken down in racial lines. This is ideological lines. I mean, you have a hardcore fight with 5 white guys or 6 white guys.
The president and Lindsey Graham talking about dealing with
racial.
the situation with love yesterday.
Right.
The language is a little different now, as we've talked about, but that he has expressed that sentiment many times. So I don't know why you have to be of a certain color or background to understand the situation.
Well, I think it'd be helpful to have somebody who's sensitive to the way that the language is written, especially for people who are recent immigrants, and Hispanics are the ones who we're talking about here. But I think that the congressman's point's well taken, too. There are lots of white guys, you know, I'm thinking Ann Coulter, Mark Levin, people on the strong conservative side who have objections to this.
But what I care more about is not what race you are or what sex you are. I care that you're an American and you're going to fight for American
exactly.
American policy.
We agree on that.
That's the key.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Great to have you here tonight.